So now it's time to do pagination. Much like what we saw with the post list query, we also created a paginator for those results. We're going to do something very similar, but I'm going to show you a couple different ways on how to do it. One is using the built-in pagination, and the next would be using the actual pagination, like customizing the built-in pagination. So let's go into our view, and we're going to import the pagination from REST Framework. So from REST Framework.pagination, import, and I'm going to do limit offset pagination, as well as page number pagination. Okay, so down into our list view, we're going to come in here and we are going to give a pagination class. So pagination class, and it's going to be equal to, the first one is page number pagination. So let's actually take a look at the documentation for page number pagination. And we see here that we can actually go off of a certain page, right? So page 1, page 2, and so on. So let's go ahead and try that out. But there is something that is to note is there are some defaults that are already going into the pagination class itself. So page size being 100. So if we don't have 100 things, we're not actually going to be able to see it. So we have to actually create our own page number class if we want to customize that size. So in order for us to really use this, that's what we have to do. So before we actually jump into page number, then I'm going to show you how to do limit offset pagination first. All right, so limit offset will allow us, limit offset, there we go. This will allow us to see a limit offset. So we'll see what that means in just a second. So if I do question mark limit equals to 2, this is pagination, right? It's coming off right off the bat, showing us limit and then a potential offset. And if I said and offset equals to 1, it just goes down the line a little bit. Notice that the previous, it gives us a previous one of limit equals to 2. It gives us another one, limit offset equals to 3. So the total count of the query set is going to be that. And then of course we can also add and q equals to title without the quotes, and we would get something in here, or let's say q equals to post. This is now giving us that same query, but it's limited. So it's actually doing the pagination that we need. Cool, so that's just going off of the default pagination. We don't want to go off the default. We want to have our own custom stuff in here. So we're going to make a new file, and we're going to call it pagination.py. And we are going to import those same sort of pagination classes from the REST framework. In fact, we don't need them in the view at all anymore. So I'm going to come in here, and I'll say class, and I'll call it post limit offset pagination. So really it's our own pagination class, and of course it's taking the limit pagination, and we are going to just change a few things. So max limit equaling to, let's say, 10, and we'll say default limit equals to 2. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this, paste it above here, and before I do anything here, I don't think I saved yet. So if I refresh in here and actually get rid of all of those queries, it still comes out with a list. Basically it's hard to tell if you can even do pagination by default. So what this is going to do is allow us to have default stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and import this into my post API, and now it's going to be from .pagination. So from .pagination, import post limit pagination, our new one, and we're going to bring this down into our list, set it right there, save it, refresh, make sure all this stuff is saved, and we're not getting the right pagination coming through. So let's actually take a look. We see that it says default and max limit. Maybe I set one of these attributes incorrectly, so let's go look in pagination in limit offset, and if we scroll down, we see it says default limit instead of default. These little things are stuff that happens while you code, and it's good that you guys saw that, because all I do is resort to the documentation, right? It would be really hard to figure out what was going on other than the fact that the pagination wasn't working as expected. refresh in here, and now it's showing me that default pagination. So in here, I can actually set what I want it to be right off the bat, how many results I want to return, right? 1 is not really that realistic. If anything, you'd probably do 10 or 20, or maybe even more than that. But if I did 10, notice it does not have more links or anything like that. But pagination is then really good because then our clients can use this pagination however we see fit. The limit offset pagination, I think, is a very popular one. It's used quite a bit. But since in our view, our original view, we used the page, so using page pagination, that's what we're going to do now, is actually show you how to do the page pagination stuff. I'm going to copy the page number pagination class, and I'll just call it post page number pagination, and so on. And we'll say page size equaling to, let's say 2, and then we'll just leave it as that. And we're going to import this into our view. Scroll back into the top, import that into our view, and then in our class, we'll change to post page number, refresh, and now we see that it says page, right? So if I click on that, it will take me to the following page. Of course, by default, it doesn't have the page parameter in there, but it definitely is in there. And again, just like with the other one, if I change this to a different size, it could change accordingly. Now, if you didn't want to have your own custom pagination stuff like we did here, you can actually set these things as defaults in the REST framework. So you could set a default class for this. And this is also true about the other sort of things inside of the view. That is the filter backends, also the authentication and permission classes. You can have those as defaults, but I like doing it directly on the view that needs it unless it's authentication. In many cases, authentication, I'll have a default for all of the views with the exception of the ones that I want as read only, right? So this delete view, we didn't even put it, but I definitely want to put it in here. This would be another candidate. So if we start seeing a lot of is authenticated or read only, or is owner read only, if we start seeing those things over and over again, we should put it as a default in our settings. It's just not something we've covered yet, but that is good to know. So that's it for pagination. It is really powerful and it's very nice to use. I'm going to leave it as post page number pagination just because that's what we did in our other view, our original view, and it's fairly useful. So what's cool here is the pagination as well as the filter as well as our own query. All of those things can work in conjunction with each other to make finding things better or retrieving things better, because once we can retrieve it, we can actually go into that item. Now, what we haven't done is linked the list view stuff to actually go to the detail view. And that's something we will do in the next one. If you have any questions on this, let us know in the comments below. Otherwise, let's keep going.